I was very fortunate to attend the Circular Economy conference in Sydney with you, the ACE conference in late last year. And I guess you gave a really interesting presentation looking at the push towards design for deconstruction, moving beyond just recycling as well. Do you have anything to say about the importance of design for disassembly as an architect or as a designer?
Look, it's a concept which has been around for hundreds of years. In actual fact, I had the wonderful experience of going to Japan and seeing some of the 700 and 800 year old temples and old timber buildings there. And it was only then that I started to realise that a lot of these older buildings had been designed for timber to be replaced, understanding that timber is a long material that has longevity, but every so often you can have problems with it. So when you have problems, the best thing to do is to replace the timber. So this whole approach of using materials is something that we don't do particularly well. In Japan, the timbers that you use for the building would come from a local source. So the whole building process was completely different traditionally to what we do in this day and age. So the disassembly process makes sense only if you've got use for those things afterwards. And now that a lot of buildings are very temporary, it makes a lot of sense rather than just to trash them to look at relocating them in other places.
I think I read somewhere that the average building now has a 40-year life cycle.
I can point to many where it's been even less than that. And as somebody that worked in a lot of, in the early part of my career in commercial interiors, it's not uncommon for a fit out to only last 3 or 5 years. So that was one of my other drivers in terms of seeing the enormous amount of material waste that our industry generates. Just because clients come along and say that I don't like that anymore, or I don't want that there anymore, get rid of it and let's start again. And that's not a sustainable approach.
Is a lot of that also driven by the push towards renewal because of the economics of building materials as well? It's cheaper just to acquire new and destroy the old, or...
Look, logistics and handling materials is a lot more costly than it used to be. So once upon a time, materials were cheap, and now we're finding that labour, which has been cheap in the past, is very expensive. So in terms of stripping out a fit-out, it makes sense to do it as quickly as possible, and the easiest way to do it is in a skip. Yeah. But I've been involved in a number of projects where we've actually disassembled things and actually separated all the materials on site. And it does take longer, but it can actually get financial benefits as well. So this need for speed is actually not very environmentally friendly.